Are you a person that loves the classic Resident Evil games and stuck in the loop of modern and boring woke games?
If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't. But I've considered it.
Tank controls, fixed camera perspective, and cheesy voice acting get you off? I got you covered. In this video, I'll be talking about the 10 Resident Evil clones that might not have the same name recognition, but they sure know how to deliver the scares. This is part 1, and I'll be uploading part 2 soon. Let's go. Dino Crisis, developed by Capcom and released in 1999, follows the story of Regina, a special operations agent sent to investigate a research facility on Ibis Island. The mission quickly turns deadly as Regina and her team discover that the facility is overrun by dinosaurs, the result of a time-warping experiment gone wrong. The main plot revolves around Regina's efforts to survive the dinosaur onslaught, uncover the truth behind Dr. Kirk's experiments, and find a way off the island. The game masterfully blends survival horror elements with intense action, creating a unique atmosphere that keeps players on the edge of their seats. Dino Crisis shares many similarities with Capcom's Resident Evil series. Both games feature fixed camera angles, inventory management systems, and a focus on survival horror. The use of puzzles, limited resources, and backtracking through interconnected environments are hallmark features that both games share. However, instead of zombies, Dino Crisis pits you against dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are faster, stronger, and far more aggressive than the typical undead foes of Resident Evil. So is Dino Crisis just a Resident Evil clone? It's fair to say that it draws significant inspiration from its zombie-infested predecessor. However, the unique premise and execution make it a memorable and distinct experience. Whether you're a fan of Resident Evil or just looking for a thrilling adventure, Dino Crisis is a game worth revisiting. Silent Hill follows the story of Harry Mason, a man searching for his adopted daughter Cheryl, who disappears after a car crash in the eerie town of Silent Hill. As Harry digs deeper into the town, he encounters grotesque monsters, cryptic puzzles, and a mysterious cult, all while uncovering dark secrets about his daughter's past and the town itself. The game's narrative is a blend of psychological horror and survival elements, creating a chilling atmosphere that keeps players hooked. Unlike Resident Evil's focus on biological experiments and zombies, Silent Hill gets into psychological terror, with the town itself morphing into a nightmarish landscape reflecting the characters' inner fears and guilt. Silent Hill and Resident Evil share several similarities. Both games feature fixed camera angles, tank controls, and an emphasis on exploration and puzzle solving. Limited resources and inventory management add to the survival horror experience, forcing players to think strategically about their actions. However, the primary difference lies in their approach to horror. Resident Evil relies on jump scares and direct confrontations with undead creatures, while Silent Hill builds tension through atmosphere, sound design, and psychological horror. The monsters in Silent Hill are symbolic manifestations of the characters' subconscious fears, making the horror more personal and disturbing. Both games employ intricate puzzles that require keen observation and critical thinking, though Silent Hill's puzzles in general are by far the hardest and sometimes relies on logical thinking, extensive knowledge. The environments in Silent Hill are designed to disorient players, with the fog and darkness playing crucial roles in creating a sense of isolation and dread. While Silent Hill and Resident Evil share foundational elements of survival horror, Silent Hill distinguishes itself through its psychological depth and unique storytelling. The game's use of symbolism, narrative ambiguity, and emotional resonance sets it apart from the more action-oriented Resident Evil series. Parasite Eve 2 follows the story of Aya Brea, a mist agent, as she battles against the neomitochondrial creatures known as the ANMCs. The game begins with a mission in Los Angeles, but soon Aya finds herself in a deserted town called Dryfield, unraveling a sinister plot involving genetic mutations and experiments. The similarities of Parasite Eve 2 and Resident Evil are that both games feature fixed camera angles, which was popular at the time, inventory management, and a mix of combat and puzzle solving. The similarities are striking. From the tank controls to the pre-rendered backgrounds, Parasite Parasite Eve 2 borrows heavily from Resident Evil's playbook. However, Parasite Eve 2 carves out its own identity through its unique blend of science fiction and horror. While Resident Evil focuses on biological experiments gone wrong, Parasite Eve 2 gets into the world of genetic manipulation and mitochondrial mutations. A key difference lies in Aya's parasite energy abilities, which add an RPG element to the gameplay. These powers allow Aya to heal, enhance her combat abilities, and unleash devastating attacks, setting Parasite Eve 2 apart from the more straightforward action of Resident Evil. While Parasite Eve 2 undeniably draws inspiration from Resident Evil, it stands out with its unique storyline and gameplay mechanics. The blend of horror, science fiction, and RPG elements creates a distinct experience that, while familiar, offers something new for fans of the genre. So the question is Parasite Eve 2 just a Resident Evil clone? You tell me. Though it shares many gameplay elements with Resident Evil, its unique story and RPG mechanics give it a flavor all its own. If you're a fan of Resident Evil or looking for a fresh take on survival horror, Parasite Eve 2 is definitely worth checking out. The Ring Terror's Realm follows the story of Meg Rainman, a CDC researcher who discovers a mysterious computer program connected to a series of deaths. Meg enters a virtual world to uncover the truth, battling creepy creatures and solving puzzles along the way. If you're a Resident Evil fan, this will all look pretty familiar. The Ring Terror's Realm features fixed camera angles, tank controls, and a mix of combat and puzzle solving, just like Resident Evil. Not gonna lie, I liked the game myself back when I played it on the Dreamcast. It had its moments, but playing it recently, it's kind of slow and a bit cheesy at times.
You don't know? Isn't this a murder?
Okay.
It's unlikely to be a homicide case.
Not a murder? Then what's that?
From the way you control your character to the survival horror vibe, which isn't that bad of a vibe, it's clear the game borrowed heavily from Resident Evil's formula. However, The Ring adds its own twist with the virtual world concept. This unique storyline sets it apart from Resident Evil's more straightforward biohazard narrative. The key difference is the game's connection to the horror film The Ring. Though it shares many gameplay elements, it's worth checking out if you're a fan of survival horror. In Countdown Vampires, you play as Keith Snyder, a cool-headed detective tasked with security at a brand new casino. But when a mysterious fire breaks out, the patrons turn into bloodthirsty vampires, and your quiet night on the job turns into a fight for survival. Sound familiar? If you've played Resident Evil, you'll notice that Countdown Vampires borrows a lot from its survival horror blueprint. We've got tank controls, fixed camera angles, and plenty of undead enemies. Well, vampires instead of zombies. The game takes place in a sprawling casino filled with gothic vibes and modern luxuries gone wrong. It's a unique backdrop, but the gameplay loop of solving puzzles, managing resources, and fighting off monstrous enemies is pure Resident Evil. The game has lots of cheesy dialogues, bad voice acting, and awkward movements. One of the cool twists in Countdown Vampires is that you can save these vampiric foes by using white water instead of just gunning them down. Not sure if this affects the gameplay or not, as I've played this a very long time ago, but if this may, it adds a bit of moral choice to the mix, which is a refreshing change from the usual shoot everything that moves style. While it tries to innovate, Countdown Vampires can't escape the long shadow of Resident Evil. The atmosphere, the gameplay mechanics, even the tension, it all feels like it was cut from the same cloth. Not that it's a bad thing, but it does make the game feel more like a tribute than a fresh experience. Have you ever played this before? Write down in the comments if you did, and tell me what you think of this one. Does it feel classic Resident Evil to you? This is it for part 1. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for part 2, which I'll upload next week, hopefully. Be sure to check the website for gaming t-shirts. I'll put the link in the description. Thank you, and see you soon in the next video.